Shalom, everybody, and today we're studying Parashat BeHar, BeHar Sinai, which means at the Mount of Sinai, the Mount Sinai. This is one before the last parasha of the book of Vayikra, Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 1. And it starts with Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe BeHar Sinai lemor, and God speaks to Moses at Mount Sinai, saying, and then comes the law of the 7th year sabbatical and the 50th year, the Jubilee, Yovel. There are more laws coming after that, but that arouses a question because the language over here, the words are a little bit different than usual because the word Behar Sinai or Mount Sinai are mentioned over here. And Rashi is bringing that famous expression, Ma inyan shmita etzel har Sinai. Why mentioning Mount Sinai? Because all the laws and the mitzvot were given on Mount Sinai. Why is it needed to mention Mount Sinai with the context of the 7th and the 50th year? Why? Because all the mitzvot, and that's what Rashi is saying, Alo kol mitzvot nemu miSinai. All the mitzvot were given in Mount Sinai. Why here mentioning Mount Sinai? Since it's redundant, we know already. And the answer is, let's see what the Zohar is saying. Of course, there are many layers of answers, and the layers that there's, like every verse in the Torah has at least 4 layers of interpretation, which were given on Mount Sinai too. Remember, these are not, a lot of people speak about it, and it's very wrong to mention it, even to deal with it, because it is in the Ethics of the Fathers, Masechet Avot. It says very clearly, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai, Moses received the Torah on Mount Sinai, Umesara liYoshua, and he gave it to Joshua, he gave it to the elders, and so on, all the way to the line of sages that gave the wisdom one generation to another, and that giving is called Kabbalah, giving, which means receiving given knowledge. Now, that's where the word Kabbalah coming. And what does it mean? And it's known that when Moses received the Torah on Mount Sinai, with the rest of the nation of Israel, it was the written Torah, which means the 5 books of what we know as the 5 books of Moses, and not just what is written, but also the interpretations. So the interpretations came down also Mount Sinai. However, there was a big group of people that held the wisdom and shared with each other and delivered the message, the wisdom, one generation to another, till we're coming to the time of the destruction of the Second Temple. We're talking about something less than 2,000 years ago. And the sages realized that the time is coming to a terrible, terrible exile and separation to many, many Jewish communities that will be isolated, and the wisdom must be written down. So what was written down is the Mishnah, and later on the commentary on the Mishnah, which is the Gemara, the Talmud, and the Zohar, that was given on Mount Sinai. However, it took time till it was written down, because the moment you write it down, you limit. So when people say about, the Jewish laws, they were added later on, yeah, but not exactly. The law was given on Mount Sinai, and also the interpretations of the law. But the problem is, and that's written when we spoke about it, when we spoke about Parashat Yitro, the moment you write it down, you limit, because every aspect of a human life has so many options, which means when somebody is doing something, he wants to know what is the law exactly. Many times it's not really clear because human life is very creative, and you have to know the general idea in order to understand the different interpretations that fit different conditions. Writing things down limit the ability to manifest the wisdom. And then I won't go into it too much. The problem is that people have the tendency, religion is about limitation. And what we're talking about is not religion. We're talking about a way of life. And then where it says v'chai b'hem, you should live with that, which means the laws were not given to limit your life, but to give you better options. And that means there always must be ways to find how to get the best out of whatever is happening. And that's why it's very limiting to write down the laws, because there are always people who say, okay, if you can't live by that, so you can die. This is not a way of life. And of course, the Creator did not create this universe to make our life hard when it's hard enough, with laws that basically are not meant to limit ourselves, but basically to open opportunities. What do I mean? When you build a building and you learn you learn all the laws of building. The laws of building limit you. They say, these are the materials, and this is the location, and that's how you can build with the given available materials and budget. It doesn't limit you. It tells you, with what you've got, what are the possibilities you can do, act, and achieve. So that's what engineering is about. Same thing about medicine. If the physician is very wise, somebody comes with a problem, so the physician that is wise knows all the possible treatments available, and he would feel and think and make the judgment what of all of these treatments is the best for the patient, because different people react differently to different treatment. So we have to understand that wisdom is not about no, you can't. It's about how can you get the best with the given options, with the given environment and background and facilities. That's exactly what the Torah is about. The problem is there are always people that will try to turn that into religion and say that's the way it's written, and what you mentioned is not mentioned, so you're doomed. It doesn't work this way. So let us see how is that connected to a weekly portion, because it's very important. And again, the name of the portion is BeHar Sinai, at Mount Sinai. And let us see what does it mean. So first of all, the context. It says, the law says as follows. Ki tavo el haaretz, I'm reading verse 2. When you come to the land that I'm giving you, asher ani noten lachem, v'shavta haaretz Shabbat l'Adonai, and the land will rest, have a Shabbat for God every 7th year. Shesh shanim, verse 3. Shesh shanim tizra sadecha, v'shesh shanim tizmor karmecha. So for 6 years, you work in the field, you can plant in the field, you can trim your vineyard, ve'asafta et tvuata, and you collect the produce. And then verse 4, uvashana shvit Shabbat Shabbaton. On the 7th year, this is Shabbat to the land. Yeh la'aretz, to the land. Shabbat l'Hashem, it's God's Shabbat. Sadcha lo tizra, v'charmecha lo tizmor. You do not plant in your field, and you do not trim or cut your vineyard. You do not. So basically, it's a Shabbat to the land, which means human beings, you can do other things, whatever you can build, you can do a lot of stuff, but leave the land. It is Shabbat for the land. והייתה שבת הארץ לכם לאוכלה, לך ולעבדך. And again, another thing, there is the point of private property applies for 6 years, which means you cannot come to somebody's field and take whatever produce you want, but on the 7th year, you can, which means everybody can go around and just pick whatever you can, not for the purpose of selling it, but for the purpose of using it for your own use. And now, which is a very weird concept, because that's very hard for any farmer that, you're building your customer base, you're building your, income, and there are loans and stuff like this, and financial issues, and then comes the 7th year, and that's it. You don't work in the field, you do not plant, you do not take the crops, only what for your own personal use. That's very hard. We'll see. The Torah is dealing with it. And then this 7 times, you count 7 times, and every cycle of 7 years, now you add it up 7 times, and on the 49th year, ועברת שופר תרועה בחודש השביעי, I'm reading verse 9, and then you should blow the shofar on the 7th month, on the 10th of the month, on the day of Yom Kippur. Then there will be blowing the shofar all over the country, which means on the Jubilee. It's coming from the Hebrew word Yovel, the biblical word Yovel, Jubilee. Yovel is coming from Jubilee. וקידשתם את שנת ה-50 שנה, and you will sanctify the 50th year, which means the year following the completion of the 7th cycle. וקראתם דורו בארץ לכל יושביה, and now you release all the slaves. יובל היא תהיה לכם, ושבתם איש של אחוזתו ואיש של משפחות תשובו. And another concept is, if you, during the 49 years of the Jubilee, you have a capitalistic game like usual, which means people own lands, people plant, they sell the crops, they make a living. However, let's say you're taking a loan, you need money, and so on, so you sell a piece of land, okay? However, on the 50th year, the lands go back to their original owner, which means basically there is a limitation of the game, which means the land that is being lost during the cycle of 49 years goes back to the original families that own that land, and the game continues. It's like Monopoly. The moment the game is over, now you deal the cards all over again. Everybody gets fair share. And then you start all over again for the next 49 years, which is a very intriguing. Okay, so the point is like this. If you have in a Jubilee, we said it's very hard that you have no game on the 7th year, which means you cannot develop the field, you cannot plow the field, you cannot improve the field, you cannot plant new plants, or you don't have income from the field, right? How are you going to pay loans that you owe that money? But the loans are also on time, and on the 7th year, the loans are also being given up. So everybody has a fair opportunity to start from the beginning. So that means when the very interesting to get it, because when the Greeks colonize the land of Israel, and they realize there's a totally different culture over here, because they are coming from the, if we're talking about the European culture, in the beginning it was the Greeks, and then came the Romans. What you have, and also in other countries and empires around Mesopotamia and Egypt, you have big landowners, big nobility, and serfs, people who work for others, but they don't have their own business. So either you have very rich people or very poor people who basically are kind of slaves of the rich people. So you have a very strong division in the ancient times till the 18th century, that we start to see the beginning of a middle class, and that's what creates democracies later on in the 18th, 19th, and 20th century. But that did not exist. Either rich people, landowners, and serfs and slaves, and poor people that work for others. And here the Torah is giving a totally different game that guarantees that the big ones are not going to eat the small ones. And sooner or later, you have again the game of either very, very, very rich people on one hand, or very poor people on the other hand, because that's what happens with people. Like you see today in world economy, the rich are becoming richer and richer as the time goes by, and the poor are becoming poorer and poorer. They're much more rich than the poor of the past centuries. But you can see they are the ones who own money, and they are the ones who lend the money, okay? And the middle class in that game is becoming minimized. So when the Greeks meet the land of Israel, and they meet the Jewish people sitting, and they were like shocked. Here, there's no class of very rich people and very poor people. Most of the country is middle class, which means people who own family businesses, and therefore they study, and also they are very, very hungry for independence of the mind, independence of rights, and it's very hard to colonize and control such people. And therefore, already from the beginning, you have the clash between the colonialist Hellenism, and later on the heir of the colonialist Hellenism is the colonialist Roman Empire, and they had to erase the Jewish independence because ideologically that was totally the opposite, because what they called it, I'm talking about the Greek philosophers or the Greek thinkers of that time, that the European, or let's say we're going to other world order, you have hierarchy. You have the most important people, the rich and the powerful, and they have the say. And you have the rest of the people, they have no say. And that's called hierarchy. While the Greeks called the Jewish society anarchy. Why? Everybody has a say, everybody has an opinion, everybody argues about the opinion. You have a big share of ideas, and this is one of the reasons, because you just try to acquire property, but you can acquire a lot of property, but every 50 years, the game is being reversed, and people go back to square one. Of course, money that you gain, money that you accumulated, or let's say you build a city, or you have city houses, whatever, you can grow. But you, in the agricultural world, which most people were making a living out of the land, people stay in a big, that most of the population will stay middle class with family-owned businesses. Now, that's a very interesting idea, which means that the Torah is saying, so when you sell a land, Basically, you're not selling it, you're leasing it till the next Jubilee. Okay? Because you have to make, the Torah is saying, basically, what is the worth of the land that you're selling? The crops that are going to be given by average till the Jubilee, because then you get your field back. Okay, so now, if you do that, then comes verse 18, ועשיתם חוקותיי ואת משפטיי תשמרו, ועשיתם אותם וישבתם על הארץ לבטח. If you do that, this is a verse that repeats itself in the next parasha, also בחוקותיי, ועשיתם את חוקותיי, which means you should go by the laws. You should follow these laws because, again, these laws guarantee a more functioning society, more just society. ונתנה הארץ פריה, and then the land, verse 19, will give its fruit or yield. ואכלתם לשובע, and you will eat, and you will satiate. And וישבתם לבטח עליה, and also when you have social justice, you'll have also security. And then comes verse 20, which is very important in order to understand the message of this parasha. וכי תאמרו מה נאכל בשנה השביעית. And what if you, and let's say you're going to ask, what are we going to eat on the 7th year? And לא נזרע, we cannot plant. ולא נאסוף תבואתנו, we cannot collect the crops. וציוויתי, so, which means very, and also in the Jubilee, so it's 2 years, you're not planting and you're not collecting the crops. How are you going to keep your economy going? Verse 21, וציוויתי את ברכתי לכם בשנה השישית, and I will, God says, I will order my blessing on the 6th year to give you enough food for 3 years. For the 6th year, and so, why? Because you need to eat for the 6th year, for the 7th year, for the 8th year, and then for the 9th year, because you can plant on the 1st year of the next cycle, till you have food, you need some few months, till you have food after you plant. וזרעתם את השנה השמינית ואכלתם מן התבואה הישן, and you will plant on the 8th year and you eat the old crops from the 6th year, עד השנה התשיעית, till the 9th year, עד בוא תבואתה תאכלו ישן, till you have the crops of the 9th year, you'll eat the old crops from the 6th year. So we are talking about a leap of faith. That's what it says very clearly. You have to have a leap of faith that you'll have enough. And that is coming to verse 23, והארץ לא תימכר לצמיתות, and the land would not be sold forever, כי לי הארץ, and God says, because the land belongs to me. כי גרים ותושבים אתם עמדי, remember, you are only guests. You are not really the owners of the land. How can you say you own the land or a house if sooner or later you're going to die? Let's say you live even over 100 years. Still, you can't take it to the next lifetime. ובכל ארץ אחוזתכם גאולה תיתנו לארץ, and you have redemption of the land wherever you live. So, it's a very powerful concept, and there are many, many ideas that belong to that concept. And first of all, we're talking about the idea of true freedom, true liberty. This is the concept, because when we are talking about Mount Sinai, why Mount Sinai is mentioned, remember, Mount Sinai revelation we are at right now, and it's always that Parashat BeHar is being read during the counting of the Omer. The counting of the Omer is basically very similar. We have a, a counting of cycles of 7 weeks. We're counting 7 weeks. So on the first day, say today is the first day of the Omer. Let's say on the eighth day, we say it's the eighth day to the Omer, 1 week and 1 day. So we're counting 7 weeks and the days till we complete counting all 7 weeks. And then what happens on the 50th day? Shavuot. What's Shavuot? The holiday of Shavuot, which means weeks, short for 7 weeks. And what happened on the 50th day? That was the revelation of Mount Sinai. And what happened on Mount Sinai? There was a leap of perception for humanity, first time since the sin of Adam, that there was a group of humans that leaped over above all the limitation of the physical reality and the physical existence, leaped over to the other world, the spiritual world, the Olam Haba, which is translated wrongly to the world to come. No, Olam Haba in Hebrew means the world that is coming, basically to the spiritual dimension of reality where our souls are descending from when we come to incarnate in a physical body. So what is the concept? We have to remember the concept is that we human beings were created first as human souls. And the soul of humanity were created for one purpose and one purpose only. The purpose to receive the light of the Creator. To receive the light of the Creator, to enjoy that light of the Creator, to contain that light of the Creator, and to celebrate that light. This is the purpose of our existence as humans. However, since the light of the Creator expanding is eternal and infinite and totally complete, therefore, it cannot give us less than everything. And it gave us everything, which means the Creator gave us his own image. And therefore, which is the basic idea in Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, where it says that the creation was, from the point of view of the Creator, totally complete. And there was a night, there was a day. Night is the creation. Day is the Creator. Light and darkness, the Creator and the creation. Heaven and earth, 1 day. 1 day, which means everything was one. Which means when everything is one in total unity, you have only 1 point. The whole reality, the whole universe is in 1 point. Why? It's the only way you can explain 1 day. The idea is very ancient in Jewish writings, which means that the whole world is one, and the only way you can say that the whole world is one in infinity is 1 point. And that point was the whole of reality, everything. All the souls, the Creator himself, his light, all the information, everything was in 1 simple unity. However, from the point of view of the Creator, that was the end of the story. From the point of view of the creation, that was just the beginning. We had 1 little thing to fix. We received the image of God because we were basically an imprint. His will, sharing, reciprocated, basically was imprinted in us in our desire to receive. However, when he gave us everything, he gave us also himself, which means he imprinted inside us the idea that we need to be in his image. And to be in the image of the Creator, I said it many times, there are 3 simple aspects that we have to follow. 1, the Creator is independent. Nobody tells him what to do. And his being is not dependent by anybody else. That's one thing. So that was imprinted in every soul. Second aspect is creativity. The creator is very creative. So we need also creativity. And the third is giving. The creator is the great giver, and we need to give. And what I said before is because we have that imprinted in us, independence, we cannot find happy, dependent people. Which means the moment we develop dependency in other people, in materials, in anything, we cannot be happy because this is foreign to our original frequency, independence, the image of the creator. The second is creativity. It's very hard to find happy, lazy people. And the third is giving, which means that you cannot find happy, egotistic people, right? The happy people are the ones who are independently happy. They don't need anyone to make them happy. They are also very creative, and they're great givers without expecting anything in return. They see that's part of the vision, which means each one of us, every human being, has to go through a process that takes many lifetimes in which we already in the beginning had everything. All the joy that each one of us can achieve and feel. We already achieved that. We already had it before. Okay, this is clear. So every time we get some happiness and joy, the question is, so why did we come to this world? We already had it before. The question is, did we receive it as creators? If I am dependent in my happiness, which means I need a spouse, children, parents, partners, some other person or event or anything to make me happy, this is against the creation. It's against the purpose of the creation. Why? The joy and the pleasure we already had. What we didn't have, and that's the reason why this reality was created on a temporary basis. And again, it's a matter of cycle, because we are in a cycle in which we are supposed to, within 6,000 years, to complete our tikkun, our correction. What does it mean, correction? Which means to receive God's pleasure, not in a state of passive, like it was in the beginning. We were created, fulfilled by the Creator. No, we had to shut down that fulfillment. We needed to have this challenging reality, but we got also, again, 6,000 years, and we are right now in the year 5784, which means we have very little time left to end the 6,000 years and to get into the cosmic Shabbat, which is the 7th millennium. Okay? In the 7th millennium, there's no place for creativity, for being a creator, for learning how to become independent. So we have to finish that. If you realize that history is becoming crazy by day, it's because all of those souls that did not complete their spiritual growth, did not achieve independence and fulfillment, they need to go through the process in a very accelerated mode because we have very little time relatively left. Only more than 200, a little bit more than 216 years. That's it. That's what's left. So everything is going crazy by the moment. The pressure is huge because we need to get the message. What is the message? And here it is. The Zohar, Parashah Sulam, is teaching us on verse 6, Od patach Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar is opening another discussion. Ki tikneh v'divrei sheshanim yavod. He's mentioning from Parashat Mishpatim, which is the book of Exodus, chapter 21, the beginning of the parasha. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he will work only 6 years On the seventh year, you let him go for free. He doesn't have to pay you. You can get a slave only for 6 years. Why should somebody get a slave? You need labor, and somebody is in debt. He cannot pay the debt, so he's being sold as a slave. However, that's for 6 years only. Basically, we explained the whole thing. If somebody got into debt because all kind of reasons, it means he doesn't know how to manage his money, or let's say he went into such a terrible place, he also stole or damaged somebody else. Now, the new owner for 6 years, no more, is basically like rehab treatment, foster family. You work with somebody who knows how to do the job. Maybe now you're going to learn how to be independent by yourself. So you're not a slave, a victim. You are doing internship. Look at it this way. So Rabbi Elazar is saying, בגין דכל בר ישראל דתגזר דית ברשימה קדישא אית לעינייך בשמיטה. Let's continue. He's saying to verse 7. And in verse 7 it says, בואו ראה מנוחה של אלוהים בתחתונים, משום זה ישי עליונה וידע ביאס. So what the Zohar is saying, when we have the seventh year is Sfirat Malchut. Sfirat Malchut, like Shabbat, is basically a completion of a cycle, and therefore there's a special illumination from above. So it's not that just we being thrown, came to this world, physical world, with lots of challenges and oxymorons and problems and impossible missions to deal with. That's how we feel like. However, everything leads to one thing, Shabbat. A year or 1,000 years, a millennium full of pleasure, happiness, and spiritual growth, fulfillment without any limitation. In order to get that, there we need, like the slave, to work for 6,000 years. And what is the work? The work is not about making money. As we said last week, money is not the goal. You need money, but that's part of the game. However, when life is over, you can't take the money with you. But you can take with you the experience of learning how to become independent, how to be a giver, how to be creative independently and in a giving way. This is what is the journey. However, if you are not willing to learn that idea and you decide to be a victim, you decide that everybody is, that's an ideology. This ideology is ancient from the beginning of humanity. Why? Because it is part of the darkness. When we are in total darkness, we have the tendency, and that's every human being, to put the blame on others, to stop create. Why should I create? Anyway, somebody else will take it away. And not giving to others. Why? If I give, what I have left? Nothing. So why should I give? That's the mentality of a slave. We come to this world for 6,000 years to be slaves. So we can be slaves, but we have an option to redeem ourselves from slavery. And the code word for that option is called Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai revelation, the 50th day after the Exodus, the holiday of Shavuot, the day of the revelation of Mount Sinai, God gave humanity a code word, the Har Sinai, Shabbat. What does it mean? You as a human being, you fell into the world of contradictions, darkness, pain, misery, mishap, and injustice, all of the above, and you have one goal: redeem yourself from that challenge. How? Enjoying the process of learning how to redeem yourselves. How do you do that? So the Creator is giving us all kinds of options of redemption. Example, okay? He's saying, let's skip to verse 8. כשמסתכלים בדברים הכל אחד, כי המוחין דיובל שבינה מהירים בשמיטה שהיא מלכות, ומשום זה כתוב ושבתה הארץ, כי במנוחת הארץ צריכים עבדים להיות במנוחה. Saying something very important. When do people have redemption, liberty? When they have a mental state of rest. What is a mental state of rest? When the fear is not in control, when horror is not in control, when happiness is controlling everything, when trust and faith and connection, and basically, this is what liberty means. Liberty is about, says the Zohar, receiving the light of the Creator, and that is the only way that people can feel true rest, menucha. How do you achieve that? When you connect to the upper world. The upper world is the 50th gate, okay? Mount Sinai, that's the code word. How do I connect to the 50th gate? So we heard in the beginning, all the mitzvot, all the laws that were given on Mount Sinai, which are called in a general word mitzvah. What is mitzvah? Translated into English into precept, which I don't really know the source of it, but in Hebrew, mitzvah comes from the Hebrew word sevet, to team. That's a Kabbalistic meaning. A lot of people make a mistake and say it's coming from the word sivui. Sivui means command. And that's why, by mistake, Mount Sinai Revelation is being defined as the 10 commandments. They made even a movie about it, which is a big lie, because it doesn't say anywhere commandments. More than that, it says that commandments are idol worshiping. Why? Slaves, they obey the commandments. Free human beings, they take the responsibility to unite the upper dimension with the physical dimension. What is the purpose? We came to this world as human beings to be magical creatures, to inject the magic, spiritual light that belongs from outside the box and inject it into every action that we do. That is the meaning of the word mitzvah. Therefore, there are blessings and mitzvot that are connected to every aspect of a human life, which means plowing, planting, harvesting. Everything that we do is about not just the physical dimension, it has a metaphysical, spiritual dimension. Our job as human beings is to accept the responsibility that the world is dark. The physical world was created physical, dry, and dark, so we human beings can complete the creation and team the upper world with the physical world. And therefore, as we said many times, some people live in a house, some people live in a home. Some people have a job and they go to work, and some people really work, which means they create a magical environment in what you call work, and they inject spiritual energy into it. And this is what human life is about. So where it says that The only way people can feel true liberty is when they feel true rest. When is it you feel true rest? When you feel that your fulfillment and happiness is not dependent on how much money you have, how many houses or apartments do you own, how many cars and how luxurious are the cars. This is not an issue about your happiness. Again, if you have a lot of money you can afford, you can buy a luxurious car, but do not think that this is what's going to make you happy. What makes people really happy is the liberty to inject happiness, power, energy, excitement, positivity in everything you do. And that is basically fulfilling the image of God that is in each one of us. So when you ask, so why is there injustice, pain, misery in this world? The world was created dark enough so we humans can bring in the light that we are destined to. So we can bring that light in and revive everything that is dead by creating the magical spiritual union between the upper world and the spiritual world. So we have opportunities like this, which is called the mitzvot. So whenever either Shabbat or blessing over food, or choosing to be honest, not to steal, not to kill just because it's better to get some stuff by doing that. All of these mitzvot are tools to inject spirituality into the dimension of physicality. So who is the liberated human being? The person who accepted that yoke, says the Zohar. אמנם זהו סוד וכך למדנו, verse 9. כתוב, זכרנו את הדגה שנאכל במצרים חינם. There's a verse that says, okay, this is in the book of Numbers, chapter 11. Yes, chapter 11. When the Israelites are rebelling and saying, we remember the fish we ate in Egypt for free. For free? You were slaves. You worked day and night. You didn't get any salary. Yeah, you got food. The Egyptian gave you some food so you can survive. That call that you got it for free, says the Zohar, you didn't have to bless over the food. You did not have to inject this upper world into your food. You ate because you were hungry. That's very different. שלא היה עלינו במצרים עול שלמעלה. In Egypt we had no yoke of the heavenly kingdom. What does it mean, yoke of the heavenly kingdom? So the Zohar is saying very simple. And that's basically naming the story of human life. And especially today when things are becoming very clear. And as I said, World War III started already. And it's not between the political axis that we read in the newspapers or we watch it on TV. This is a fake issue. There's one big war, and the war is like this. You can choose to be a slave and suffer for eternity. And what does it mean to be a slave? You do not take responsibility for your personal happiness and for your personal success. You feel that you are entitled, that somebody else will make for you everything, will get you the job, get you the money, get you the food, make you happy. Same thing like the masses in the Roman Empire, that they were slaves basically, and they wanted bread and entertainment, which means what? Like, why do somebody else have to give you bread and entertainment? The point is, you have to produce your own bread, your own entertainment, your own happiness. Nobody owes you nothing. This is basically the basic idea of true liberty. which means people who hate, they make it their business, they make it their, whatever you call it, ideology. It's ideology of hate, finding who is the enemy of humanity. So it's the rich one, the poor one, the black ones, the Jews. It doesn't matter. The moment you go into such an ideology of hatred, you are right now a slave, which means you deny the basic idea of the creation, that we came to this world that is full of injustice and darkness and so on. So you, because you were created in the image of God, you can take responsibility and the liberty to liberate yourself. What does it mean? You make yourself happy. Nobody will make you happy. How do you do it? Being independent. What does it mean? My happiness is mine. I cannot wait for anyone to make me happy. I will make myself happy. I'm not dependent on anyone to be happy. Creativity, I create my own success, mentally and physically, which means either in making a living, career, whatever, it's only dependent on my efforts. It's only dependent on but there's always somebody standing on the way. So be creative. Find a way to overcome that in a creative, positive way. This is the mentality of the free human beings. And be a giver. And that's why the Zohar continues about all the ideas of charity. Only free people, liberated people, can give charity. Why? When you're a slave also to money. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You always have the idea that tomorrow, who guarantees that tomorrow I'll have the money? So if somebody in need comes to me for money or any kind of help, why should I give them? Because maybe tomorrow somebody will betray me, there's going to be a war, and I'm going to be left without money, and I gave my money to somebody else, even part of it. So I'm not giving any money. I made the money, it's my money. It means that you are not a free human being. Only free human beings, liberated human beings, have that certainty that there are laws to this universe that are beyond logic, which means seventh year or Shabbat, not working on Shabbat. You know, in some branches of business, most of the income is coming in the weekends. You know, in many countries, people have time on Saturday. That's when they go and shop. So I know many aspects, you know, in retail that 40% of the business are on Shabbat. So how did Jews survive for thousands of years being in exile, that they were home celebrating Shabbat while their competitors were making money? And in the end result, they blamed the Jews that they made more money. How could you say that? It's exactly what you're talking about. When you are liberated, you know that the moment comes and it's Shabbat, it's either the seventh day of the week or the seventh year or the Jubilee, and you don't do what you're not supposed to do. Why? Because basically, how do you get the flow of bliss into your life? It's a matter of consciousness. And right now, when you study all of these modern studies of psychology, what makes a successful person in business? It's all about a state of mind. Free human beings, that they know my success depends on me and me alone. I don't blame cheaters and liars. There are always people like this. I don't blame the government. I don't blame the situation. I don't blame the economy. I don't blame the market. I work hard. I'm creative. I don't blame anybody. I'm taking total responsibility. I am liberated because I was created in the image of God, and I'm a generous, giving person. When people who think like this, they are becoming the leading people of any industry. That's the result of all scientific research. that is trying to identify success. This is exactly what's written over here. Mount Sinai is the beginning of a new era in the history of humanity. Yes, it happened 33 centuries ago. The fight is still going on, which means it won't help you. You can find all the bad guys. Go to Soviet Russia. Okay, Stalin. He killed he thought he did. All the people were capitalists. All the people were taking for themselves. They did not share equally with society. What was the result? There were no more selfish people living in Russia anymore. After he killed, who knows? Nobody knows how many. We're talking about close to 100 million people were killed by communism. Why? Because he cannot deny the process. You cannot deny people need to create their own success. You cannot create success for somebody else. Yeah, but people are not good enough. Yeah, a lot of people have a slave mentality. Only in a free market economy, you can have this process of learning how to trust the creator on one hand, and know, on the other hand, that it's all dependent on me and my faith. So liberation, freedom, it's when a person is connecting to the light of the upper world in every aspect of his life, the light that comes in through spiritual growth is the only thing that will give you certainty, peace of mind, and the power, the ability to move on with resilience and to be independent, which means it's no one's fault that I'm not successful. It's only my responsibility, and it's my creativity, and it's my giving. When I create myself as the person that I was created to achieve, we're not created perfect. We were created imperfect so we can perfect ourselves. And the challenges of reality, this is all embedded in this parasha, because during the counting of the Omer, we can concentrate the journey so we can move forward in leaps till we come to Shavuot, so we can reconnect, re-accept the idea of Mount Sinai. What does it mean? Take full responsibility. Be happy no matter what. So there are horrible things happening. Don't go around with a terrible long face and say, oh, the world is terrible. You're dependent. You're a slave. You're blaming. You're not taking responsibility for your happiness. You have to be daily happy because you're thankful, because you're creating, because you're giving, because you're sharing. This is the definition of true liberty. This is World War III, between haters, victims, slaves on one side that are trying to destroy whatever they touch. Why? Because it's against their value. If you see happy, successful people who are really givers and so on, you are jealous and you want to destroy it because it destroys your ideology. What's your ideology? I'm not responsible. Somebody else took my wealth. Somebody else took my freedom. Somebody else. Don't wait for that. Don't wait for the government to change. Do whatever you can do and try to do as your best in a positive way. This is the other side of humanity. Be excited about everything. Be sharing. Be loving. Be in creativity all the time. And remember, there's a spiritual dimension that you bring God's light into everything you do, because that's your mission. When you do that, you create heaven on earth, and that's our destiny. And we have very little time left. So now everything is very pressured. So everything you can see the line between the slaves and the liberated human beings. And your choice is which side to take. It's not a political issue. It's about deep inside in each one of us in our hearts. Thank you so much.